So the topic itself, how to drive successfully drive change and transformation in the modern workplace. And the way I will present it to you, I give you a bit of a understanding why leadership is so important to drive change, the cultural aspect of that, and also relating back to a very important topic these days, especially in the business world, I guess, across the board, but also in the business world, where we speak about diversity and inclusive culture, and what that really means for us to be competitive in business environment there. So let me start off with really talking about the importance of organizational leadership. Now, I would like to begin with the not story of leadership, but really sort of give you an understanding that leadership has always been around. Since we as humans started evolving and really gathering ourselves into an organized way of living, there was always one individual, female, male, that was in a so-called leadership position. And to really clarify here, we're differentiating between management and leadership. A lot of times what I heard in my engagement with senior executives is, being in a managerial position automatically entitles me to call myself a leader. By all means, they're doing an exceptional job in their management position, and most of them have really excellent managerial skills. But when it comes to leadership, there is a bit more depth to that. Yeah. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. So I just want to clarify that organizational leadership is very complex. It's very contextualized. It is focused on human behavior, understanding human behavior. It's also goal-driven and purpose-driven as well. So that's a lot to take in just for a single individual being in a managerial position, where it's mainly around administrative tasks and being process-driven here. Yeah. So, but again, that's my point of view, and that's what I experienced over the years in my professional life, as well as my academic career, doing research and being closely engaged with the business leaders. So what do we actually understand as leadership? And you'll note here on the screen there's a quote, and I came across this book when I started out my PhD, and really stuck to me. These two gentlemen here, Rosenbach and Taylor, they published in their books 1998, and it's still relevant to me to date, is if we want to understand leadership, we need to understand its essential nature, right? And the essential nature of leadership, it's a process between individuals, one that inspires, leads, influences a group or another individual to achieve a shared purpose and a set goal in a specific context. Now, when we think about leaders, habitually there's a perception of something mystical, something that is almost like a hero, depicted like an individual with exceptional traits, almost divine characteristics. And we can see that throughout history, starting with the Romans, all the way to date, where we refer to Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and the likes. Yeah, something that's really exceptional with these individuals. But what I really found in all of these conceptions, when I started out my journey, and also having the personal interest in this field, is there are certain characteristics that, no matter what the context is, and no matter what the purpose of an organization is, it all comes down to three characteristics of leadership. And I want to elaborate on that a little bit more, so we get a thorough understanding what it is actually required in this whole process. Now, first of all, as a business leader, or as a leader in general, I need to have an ethical foundation. An ethical foundation provides me with certain guidelines on how to behave, how to interact, how to ensure that a effective way of doing things is ensured. Yeah. Now, with an ethical foundation, automatically we might refer to morally right conduct. Now, I don't mean that necessarily, because having an ethical foundation, I could be a very egotistical person. Still, from my point of view, that's very ethical. I can be a person that works for the common good, which for some people, that's great. For some others is, why would you give all your life to someone else? I could base my actions on rules and regulations, very sort of abiding by the law, or I can base my actions on virtues. Again, it comes down to the individual to set that foundation. What are we on about? What are the rules of engagement? Having a strong ethical foundation should actually enable us to really live our values with our actions. Having an understanding of that brings us to the second point of effective leadership, or the characteristic of effective leadership, what I found in many conversations with business leaders, where no matter the size of the business that I was engaged with, a lot of these leaders were telling me, well, only if you align your actions with your values, people will actually listen and be inspired. So I guess to bring it in a very simplified form, if I can walk the talk, that's what helps me to engage with people, to get people to listen to what I have to say, to inspire people and really get them to follow and trust me that I'm actually going to do what I spoke out that I'm going to do. So having the ethical foundation, being authentic in the way I present it, and walking the talk creates that trust relationship there. Now, the third pillar, charisma. Charisma, what might that be? To put it very simple, charisma is nothing but being very effective in the way I communicate a message, communicate a vision of the future that I have in mind, and by that inspire others to follow me. So that could be the vision of creating a company that provides exceptional healthcare services to a certain group of demographics. That could be a plumbing service that provides exceptional service in a particular area. That could be an aviation service that provides an exceptional experience to their customers. Again, it's the vision that we're communicating to the wider audience. By that, I can capture and I can actually inspire people to follow me. Now, to sum it up, right, ethical behavior is the foundation stone. So as a leader, you should act in accordance to what you consider is the ethical right way. Again, there is no right or wrong. I'm not debating about morally right things. I'm not debating about what is considered from the wider population being the right thing, considering you in your leadership position. Again, that is to be separated to what the wider population thinks is the right thing. Once the ethical tone is set, authentic behavior adds more value and credibility to your actions. On top of that, a portion of charisma, that will actually enable your organizational members to identify with your vision, create trust, and that in turn creates a willingness to commit towards organizational goals that you set out to achieve. These are the three foundation stones that are found through various conversations with leaders, through my own expertise, and also through various research that I've been coming across being the key theme of effective leadership. Now, we've probably heard various leadership styles, autocratic leadership styles, participative leadership styles, strategic leadership styles, servant leadership style. It's all okay in its own right. But what we need to consider when we talk about that, it's the context in which we find ourselves in. Yeah. So when we talk about a servant leadership style, I need a servant leadership style in a specific context. If I talk about strategic leadership style, I need a specific context. For example, strategic leadership style in the military. I need to know what are my resources in terms of troops, in terms of weaponry, in terms of the field that we're in. Yeah. So again, it comes down to the first point here. What is the nature and the complexity of the task at hand? In a business setting, who are we up against? What resources do we have available? What is our supply chain? Let's say I'm a laptop provider. Yeah, where do I source my manufacturing from for my hardware? Where do I have my knowledge workers? How much financials can I actually put into research and development? What is the nature and complexity of the task? What is my workforce like? What is the risk associated with sourcing materials from a certain area? What is the risk with me entering a new market, for example? What are my resources available, not only financially, but also human capital, supply chain? Who are the stakeholders involved? This can be your internally, your employees, your colleagues, can be externally. Do I need to consider certain government bodies? If I bring in a new product to the market, let's say, for example, the vaccines that we had over the last 2 years, the observation there was, I need to ensure that it is actually safe for the wider population to use these vaccines. So I need to go through certain government bodies to get approval and be certified that it is actually safe and not going to cause any major damage. Again, I don't want to go too deep into that because that would be not the scope of this presentation, but I just want to explain to you that there are certain contextual requirements to adjust my leadership style. But at the end of the day, it comes down to having your ethical guidelines, being authentic, and communicating your vision well in terms of what you're trying to achieve as a business leader. That's the context. Now, with all that in mind, leadership is about stimulating a certain type of culture that will help you achieve your particular purpose and your particular goals. These, again, what do you want to achieve in particular business? It's usually, in business, it's about productivity. I want to have growth, I want to have customer satisfaction, I want to have profitability, and I want to be competitive against my competitors in the market. To achieve that, I need to establish a certain culture. If that's a culture of performance, if that's a culture of collaboration, it is up to the purpose of the organization itself. When we speak about culture, and you will understand how this is leading into diversity and inclusion. What we usually see when we look at in particular, a company, we see certain visible so-called artifacts. We can see the logo, we can see the labels that we use, we can see the colors. For example, when I was working at RMIT University, the colors were black and red. Yeah, very sort of significant there. We can see, what else? Certain ways people dress codes. That's another thing when we look at the financial profession. Usually suit and tie are the standard. When we look more into the software space, a more casual approach to working is given there. What we don't see, however, and this is the important part here, we don't see the values that are lived throughout the business. We can only see these values once we immerse ourselves in the business, but not from the outside. So to that, it's important to understand what norms and behaviors are set in certain guidelines, but also what type of language is used. Is it very formal? Is it informal? Coming from a German background, I can tell you it's very, very formal being in a business setting. Even if your friends within the business, you usually use a very formal tone to conduct yourself in the workplace. Whereas here in Australia, what I found, it's a very informal way of collaboration, which I kind of like. It's more personable, and it really bonds the culture more. Now, why is that important? When you shape a certain culture, I mean, when you try to attract new talent, you need to ask yourself these 4 specific questions. What are you in business beyond making money? Do you want to make a difference? Who do you want to cater for? Yeah. What is the outcome here that you're trying to pursue beyond making money? Why would people like to join your business? Is it because they get quick career progressions? Is it because it is like a family environment that they can feel welcomed? Is it a sense of belonging that you provide? What are the purpose, values, and behaviors of your employees? And what are cumulative traits of the people your business hires? So again, you're looking at hiring for cultural fit. I know this might be a buzzword to a lot of you, but it's really true that if you want to achieve a shared purpose, you're trying to attract talent that really fits into that environment there. And in the red box, we can see this saying, culture is not something presented by providing sleeping pods, pinball machines, regular after-work drinks. Culture is much more determined by an organization's purpose and values. So speaking widely is something about individuals want to feel attached to. Yeah, it's this sense of belonging and knowing that they can contribute to a bigger picture. So to achieve effectiveness in that, everything comes from the top. And this is where I relate back to leadership. Leadership, even though we were referring to leadership in business to senior executive positions, again, being a true leader is about being able to drive a certain culture and inspire people to be part of the culture working towards the common goal. Now, why is diversity such an imperative for business? The challenge that we see today, and over the last 2 decades, I guess, it was around providing equal opportunities in business to get a career going and really immerse yourself in the workplace. And most of the discussions back then and still to date are around gender diversity. Now, most recently, it's about the LGBTQ plus community being able to contribute to the organization and having equal opportunity to thrive in the workplace. One thing we need to understand with diversity and why this is so important, diversity fosters many, many positive things within the workplace. Some countries have introduced quota to ensure diversity is upheld in organizations, but there is something else beyond this quota. And this is why my emphasis here is don't try to think in quotas when you are working in a specific industry environment. Think about what is the best possible talent. Diversity fosters innovation, creativity, and it really drives a business competitive edge. Why? Because you're leveraging from different experiences, different ways of working. With diversity, you have access to a wider customer pool as well, understanding of a wider customer pool as well with diverse backgrounds. In addition to that, you also need to make people feel welcome in your organization through diversity. It's not just opening up the doors for females being board members or for people from the Asian background being able to go into senior executive positions. That was one of the challenges a few years back that I investigated in one of my research, where there was like it was for females, the glass ceiling, there was a so-called bamboo ceiling for people with Asian backgrounds in Western cultures to be able to rise to the top. So we need to ensure that there is equal opportunity and we leverage talent to the best possible way we can within an organization, rather than looking at quota and being very sort of narrow-minded in terms of employment opportunities. Now, top performance really is not about meeting quota. Top performance is much more about creating an inclusive culture. I know there is a lot of writing on this particular slide, but what is very important to me for you to understand that if I look at my company mission and vision and the environment that I'm in, I need to take into consideration a lot of different variables and really be clear what I'm trying to achieve to be able to have a certain talent. Now, what does it mean for an organization that's in the engineering industry? And I might come across some critiques here now, but usually the engineering field is very dominated by males, right? Reason being is the interest. It is the personal interest of the majority of people being from a male background and from a female background. However, this shouldn't stop the other gender to be able to go into a certain profession. What shouldn't happen is providing a quota from government bodies just to ensure that equal opportunity is given, because that has a detriment on the performance culture and the talent pool that we're trying to reach. While quotas can assist bringing in diverse viewpoints and voices to an organization, you also must really ensure that you have an inclusive culture and people feel welcome in that. Yeah. An inclusive, to put it simple, an inclusive workplace is one in which everyone with the professional skills necessary to perform the job requirements feel welcomed, supported, and rewarded, and is motivated to succeed. Yeah. So these days, diversity cultures cannot be limited by a single oppressed minority characteristic such as race, gender, since there are many individuals would be alienated or marginalized, and hence there would be limited opportunities for everyone. Now, to give you an example, a worker could be African background, could be from the LGBT community, and could have an interest in working with disabilities. Yeah, that is one option. So there are much more variables. Another example could be someone from a Western background who is disabled, would have an interest in the engineering field. Again, we need to take into consideration different characteristics of these diverse backgrounds, not just a couple of given obvious ones that we were talking about over the last 10, 20 years, and really having a narrow mind on diversity, but it's much more complicated than that. So it's crucial for companies to apply a much more nuanced lens when analyzing diversity data in order to achieve a more comprehensive approach to diversity. And again, this will vary considerably depending on how many factors, such as geography and industry itself. Yeah. So change and diversity management programs are usually designed to address the needs of diverse groups of employees, such as Black employees, LGBTQ employees, female employees, male employees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, what I wanted to also point out is that the future of diversity demands, you need to take a look and really take into account that employees hold a wide range of identities. Look at the diversity holistically and make sure that all efforts are grounded in the unique context of an organization's purpose before you make a decision. The essence here is really to unlock human potential, achieving long-term sustainable competitive advantage, and enabling your employees to thrive in the workplace. Now, with all that in mind, how do we actually drive transformation and how do we achieve change? Well, first of all, we need to keep in mind that any organizational transformation starts with leadership at the top. Yeah. First things first, articulate the case for change and really communicate the need that you have and why it is beneficial and essential for an organization to move forward and do things differently than they have been done up until to date. Consult and engage with influencers on the ground. Try to find people who are instantly on board with your vision and use them as an additional voice for your vision to communicate with the other organizational members. Articulate a vision for the future by painting a new picture, how that might feel, how might it look like for employees in your organization. What does the future hold? Capture the hearts and minds of employees by connecting and communicating the vision clearly and meaningfully. Give empowerment to staff. It's not just done by communicating that, but also give people the accountability and responsibility and let them be part of the change process. Take their ideas on board and really listen. That feeds into the participative leadership style if we focus back on leadership itself. Break down your goals. It's very important to have achievable milestones and really celebrate those milestones with your employees. Yeah, let them be part of that. Show them that you care what they contribute and show them how they are part of the collective. Identify anything that worked, but also identify anything that didn't work and get feedback from everyone. Yeah. Again, make sure that everyone is part of the change process itself. It's very important as a leader to also listen as to why things haven't worked, not just dismissing them, saying, oh, no, this doesn't work, and tick off the box and move on. Listen to your employees because they are the one on the ground. They know what processes, how they did that, what challenges they face. Take it on board. I know for a small and medium-sized business, it's quite difficult because we have so many multiple hats on as business owners or as managing directors. But if you want to move forward, you need to make time for these essential things. Only learning from mistakes can bring you forward to not do the same mistakes again. And then the final point is make changes as part of your culture by aligning what you do, the new processes, reward systems, infrastructure, let it be part of change. And then you can then use that to drive more change if necessary. That will be an overview as to how leadership can actually contribute to driving change and why leadership is important and why we can't replace performance with quota. It is necessary to have a contextualized approach to your business and really attract the right talent by putting down the ethical guidelines, being authentic, and really communicating that effectively. Thank you very much.